Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you're listening to the podcast of two dads going through the journey of fatherhood while all of you listen to us as we're going through it. Brandon, what is going on, my friend? It's been a long day. It's been a long week for us with everything going on at work, but how are you holding up?
Oh, doing pretty well. I'm a little tired right now, and luckily that's not because of Bryce. So once we're done here, I'm catching some Z's and maybe a little bit of the Golden State game at the same time.
Yeah, it's been an exciting day for basketball already, so we'll see what happens in that and the Milwaukee game too. But before we get into everything that's been going on with us, it is called Dad Jokes for a reason here on this podcast, and that's because we hit you with some dad jokes every single week. Brandon, do you want to hit us with a dad joke, or do you want me to lead off today?
I'll go ahead and start, Jerry.
All right.
It may come as a surprise to you considering where we work, but I got a new car for my wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the best trade I've ever made.
I'm sure she'll love that one.
I actually she heard it and said, yeah, you should use that one.
That's pretty good. I like that one. That's a good one, especially with where we work. So that's good. Not bad, Brandon. So what's been going on with you guys? You said Bryce isn't keeping you up. That's a pro. So what else has been going on in the Banks household?
Yeah, he's sleeping significantly better. Like it's not even close. So he's sleeping better, feeling better. And one thing we've noticed in the last week or so is obviously the talking and babbling is nonstop, but it's becoming more and more easy to understand. I feel like we're at the point where we're going to start getting some full sentences. And when I mean full, I mean maybe like 4 and 5 word sentences, but
Still counts.
Yeah, he is expressing feelings more in the correct way. So if he's hungry, and like whiny, and we ask him what he needs, he knows to say like eat. He's doing a much better job of asking for more. If he wants like more food, stuff like that, we constantly been working on like the hand motion, but he'll save more as well. And then his motor skills are getting like way better. He has toys that, toddlers have the toys that they push around. He's struggled in the past, like kind of maneuvering it around in tight spots. He has a bunch of different toys that he pushes and will pick up and drag all around the house or my parents' house. And if something's in his way, he knows how to quickly it sounds real simple, like just moving something in a way that you can like avoid an obstacle in front of you. But as your toddlers are developing, you notice that they can't necessarily, so they just run into a lot of things. So he's running into less things, and he's able to maneuver around corners, around the house, around stuff that's in front of him. That's been the biggest thing I've noticed in the last week. He's spending, if it's anywhere near like warm outside, he's spending pretty much he loves being outside. So he's spending almost all day outside. He was and I'll post a picture to the page. Actually, tonight when we're done recording, he was out with my dad. My dad was on the lawnmower today, and Bryce has I'm sorry, I'm gonna skip ahead. This is my baby gear, but Bryce has a lawnmower that has like a bubble machine attached to it. So if the bubbles are in there, it'll shoot bubbles, but also makes like a startup sound, and it kind of sounds real. And if you look on Amazon, there's a bunch of different ones there. I don't know the exact one he has. I believe it's a Little Tikes one, but they're all like under $30, between $20 and $30. But there's a picture. This is one I'll post. My dad's using his push mower on one side of the lawn, and so you can see my dad in the frame, and then like above my dad mowing the lawn, and Bryce is pushing his little lawnmower in the grass with my dad at the same time, and to me, it's the cutest picture ever. Then he got some time. My dad was on the riding lawnmower. He got some time on that, sitting on my dad's lap. Just the stuff that you like don't think about, but like really start like this kid's really growing up, which was fun to see. So Jerry's gonna give it a shout out at the end of the episode, but check out the Dad Jokes Instagram page. That'll be up while you are listening to this. What you guys been up to? You guys got a lot that you did this week too.
We had a crazy busy week. I started going over stuff, and it's been a busy week, which is sometimes, you think through your weeks and you're like, oh, I don't feel like a lot happened. This week we had a lot jam packed into a short period of time. You probably remember the last time we left off this podcast, Brandon. Peyton had been in kind of a really, I want to call it colicky, because it's not colicky at this point, but she'd been cranky. She'd been in a mood. I don't know if it was the leap. I told you I didn't know what was going on, but she seems to have broken through that. There was a couple more days of it. It was kind of bad for a minute, but it kind of got broken this weekend. This weekend was really busy for us. This past weekend, we had a birthday party for my nephew that we went to. This was really cool. We went to this place where it was a huge community center where they had soccer fields and playgrounds and a bunch of different activities for kids over the whole entire community center. But there was a bunch of rooms where kids could have birthday parties and stuff in, and you had access to the whole entire facility. So that was kind of fun. Peyton got to play with some of her cousins and have fun there. And then she got to spend some time with Grandma and Grandpa and also some of her cousins, because she had a sleepover because Mom and Dad went to the Luke Combs concert. Any country music fans out there, we went to Luke Combs, which was fantastic.
No idea who that is.
Yeah, you do, but it's okay. Anyways.
Legitimately have no idea who that is.
Anyways, it was the largest concert in Ford Field history. It was fantastic. It was amazing.
Are you serious?
Yep, largest concert in Ford Field history. It was crazy. It was crazier than, and we go to Michigan football games regularly. You got 110,000 people in there. This was a zoo. You didn't have 110,000 people, but the amount of people you had in this space was crazy. It was tough going to the bathroom. It took us forever to leave. We got down there at 3:30, and we didn't get home till after 1:30, which it was a good night. Peyton had a lot of fun. But I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute, Brandon, and I know everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. But having a night out with your significant other or your friends or just yourself or siblings, whatever it is, I think that's good. That's really good from time to time. I mean, not that you don't want to be by your kid all the time, but I think it's healthy. It was fun. Peyton had been really kind of crazy the week before. And then I think we got away, kind of cleared our heads, had a good time, let us be kind of us, before we had Peyton type again, had a great night. Then the next day, I had another birthday party for my cousin's kid, which was at a different play center. Saw Peyton. We were super excited to see her because we didn't see her the night before. And all of a sudden, like I said, since then, she's been in a great mood. So I don't know what happened. It's almost like the night away, changed. But it's also exciting because she had a great night. My mom was telling me how great she was, and she did all these fun things. And then she was super excited to see us the next day. We were super, excited to see her. So that was really cool. That birthday party was fun. It was at a little play center where there was tons of stuff. There was kids' kitchens and, climbing things and everything. She was having a blast there. It was like a little tea party theme, if you will. So that was super good. And so that was exciting. That kind of flipped the switch on her mood. And then this last week, or this last few days, we yesterday had our third trimester ultrasound, which is kind of crazy to think of. We're almost 33 weeks, Brandon, which is just nuts. But we had the ultrasound at 32 weeks and 32 and a half weeks, and that was fun. The baby is tracking on the larger side right now, which I'm sure scared Macy a little bit. But we're a week ahead of schedule, and the baby right now is 5 pounds 3 ounces, which means when it's born, it's probably going to be, this is their guess, between 8.5, 9 pound range, which is larger than Peyton. She was 7'9", but they also thought Peyton was going to be large, and she wasn't. So who knows if that will be true or not? But the baby looks good.
I'm sorry, Macy.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing they said, Brandon, I thought was interesting. It was kind of cool when they showed us, but I never heard anyone say this before. They said the baby has really thick skin. So I don't know if that means she's chunky, but they were saying
that's a good thing because her dad showed down.
Yeah, nice. The other cool thing is Macy has felt this baby a ton, crazy, way more than Peyton. And basically they showed that there's a tiny, tiny space between Macy's skin and where the baby is. There's no like fluid there or like protection, if you will. So it makes sense. And that's not unhealthy or anything. It's just why she can feel everything. But everything looked good on the scans, other than we're tracking a little ahead of schedule, which is still good. It's just, we're about a week ahead of our due date. And so that was fun. She didn't cooperate very well for pictures. We only got a couple of decent ones, but definitely looks like she has a full head of hair, just like Peyton did. So that'll be exciting. So that was a really good time. And then right after that, we grabbed Peyton and we went and got maternity pictures done. And we had Peyton in them, obviously. We did some with just Macy, some with all three of us, some with, Macy and the baby, all that kind of stuff. And those turned out really, really well. So that was exciting. Peyton did pretty good. I will tell you, Brandon, we've gone to this photographer now 3 times. We go out to her house. She has a nice setup at her house. The first time at 6 months, Peyton was amazing, as good as she could have been. At 1 year, her 1 year pictures, she was terrible. And so this time I would say she was in between. She had really good moments and she had some kind of moments, but overall we got great pictures, so I can't complain at all. But she was hit and miss, but we got enough hits to have really good pictures.
The one thing I'll give you guys credit for is every time you do these photo shoots, I feel like you get like 3 or 4 different outfits out of these.
Oh yeah, Macy's got it all done. Yeah,
man. When I'm going on these photo shoots, I'm one outfit. I'm trying to get in and out. So maybe I need to be better next time for Kelsey.
I don't know how long they normally take you, Brandon, but we were there probably 35, 40 minutes. And that's multiple outfits and stuff. So we're not there super long. I don't feel like that's how long.
Yeah, I mean that's about the same. You like pay for an hour and then you're there for like 45 minutes.
Correct. So I mean, we just had multiple outfits in it, but I will say our photographer, she has a little girl. She's probably, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years old. I would say maybe 6 or 7. And we were talking about, our kids and stuff. And I don't have a thing my wife said this week. I have a thing my photographer said this week, because I was talking about ages, and she said my favorite age was 18 to 24 months. She's like, I think that's just an amazing age. And then I was like, okay. And she goes, now my least favorite age is 3 years. She goes, at 3 years of age, you're basically just dealing with a terrorist every single day. So we got that to go with. She's like, you're just negotiating with a terrorist every single day of your life. And I've heard that from my sister and other people who have children that are a little bit older. They all.
I will say this is an amazing. This is an amazing range. Like we're still dealing with. Kelsey was just talking to me about this. I feel like, as he started to feel better, his attitude and like some of the tantrums have gotten significantly better. And he's just back to being like he's just like a sweet, energetic, happy kid, like all the time. And the greatest thing right now legitimately is him waking up in the morning and just the energy that he has and how happy he is to see you. I was on the phone with Kelsey today while they were in our room. I was on my way home from work. And he thought, sometimes I hide under the covers from him. There was like a ball of covers on the bed. And he like pointing up to it, running up to it and saying, Daddy, Daddy. And I'm in the car on my way home, so I'm not there. But little stuff like that is just is super cute. And I feel like that's an everyday type thing.
Yeah, we're starting to get, I think, into that stage he was talking about in Peyton. She's definitely, like I said, she's kind of like what I describe her, like hot and cold. When she's in a good mood, she's the funnest. Like, she's hilarious. She's cracking up. She's goofy as all get out. I think I was telling you today at work, she's just so goofy. She'll like try to pull her shirt off and walk around with like her shirt half over her head. She like grabs blankets and like puts them on her head and walks around, and like, I mean, she's just a goofy kid, man. And she cracks herself up. She thinks you're funny, and she chatters all the time. She'll like yell, but like happy yell. I mean, she's goofy. But when she's mad, she is mad. So, hopefully if we could minimize that a little bit, we'd be doing great. But she's a ton of fun. She's definitely learning a lot more. Her favorite words right now are what and why. Everything is why, what, what's that, why, all the time. So it's cute, and she loves to point to if we have a book and there's 10 people in it, she will point to every character and get you to tell her who they are, and make sure she points to every single one. So It's fun. It's exciting. Today I read a long story before bed, and she sat with me the whole time and actually paid attention, which normally she'll pay attention for a couple pages and go off and do
Yeah.
something. That was cool. That made me really excited. So I'm excited for this stage. But yeah, we've had a busy weekend, and we got a busy few days coming up too. But we're getting close to that due date, Brandon. I won't lie to you.
Sometimes I
close.
forget you guys got a kid on the way. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, sometimes I forget.
It's
Which
crazy.
is not good. It's exciting, and it seems like it's weird too because we've had a lot of people popping up near us, getting pregnant now too. So we got a lot of company with us too. So that's exciting as well. A lot of kids around the same age. It'll be a lot of fun. Definitely seeing Peyton around at these birthday parties with all our kids has made things exciting for the new baby to come. So. But Brandon, my baby gear this week, I'll go into baby gear because you already mentioned yours. Nothing too exciting. It's something that my mother-in-law actually brought over to the house recently. Peyton goes to these music classes. I mentioned it before. And one thing they do in these music classes is they give them like these scarves that are like bright colors and they're like really thin and they like play with these as music's playing. So she like got some, I don't even know from where, and brought them over, and I mean they're really lightweight. You can put them in a bag. I gotta imagine they can't cost more than like $5 to $10 at the most, but they entertain her. I mean, and it's also a nice way to like teach colors because you got red and you got blue, and she thinks it's funny to put them over your face or the dog's face or my face. She's all about it. So those are something that you can get for cheap. Like I said, you can magic scarves, I think they're called, on Amazon, or like juggler scarves. Any of those kind of do. It's kind of fun for her. So that's my baby gear for the week, if you will.
No, that's super cool, and I'm noticing as we start playing with more and more toys, I'm trying to get. So Bryce has been saying, like, he tries to repeat everything. He can say certain colors. I mean, blue was like his first word he ever said, but it's getting him to recognize it at this point. But it's fun to actually be able to utilize what these toys are supposed to be meant for instead of just making noise.
I will tell you that when they recognize something you've been teaching, it's like the best feeling.
Oh, it's great.
Like she like can recognize like Elsa now, and she said it the other day when Macy put on Frozen. That was like really cool because it's like, yes, you're right.
You gotta buy her Elsa. You gotta buy her Elsa down now.
Dude,
if she doesn't have one.
here's the problem. Has
That's
an
what happened
Elsa
with
nightgown now. That girl, like, somehow, I don't know when this happened in the last couple weeks, but Frozen became everything, and like the only thing that can get her out of a crazy tantrum is literally putting Frozen on, and she'll sit there like this, like just like staring at the TV, like legs crossed, like, and you cannot get her attention. You could wave your hand in front of her face and she won't move if Frozen's on, which is probably not good.
I legitimately have been trying to get Bryce into like Disney movies and stuff like that. He does not care. Like it might pique his interest for a second. Sesame Street, specifically Elmo and Miss Rachel, he's like that with it. But I can't, like, these movies are supposed to be entertaining, not educational. He likes the educational stuff that is way less entertaining in my opinion, and he does not go for. I've tried multiple movies and nothing.
Peyton loves
He
them.
just whines.
Frozen, though, by far and away the most, because most movies she'll watch for, I don't know, let's call it 20 minutes, which is still pretty good, and then go do something and then maybe come back to it. Frozen, she'll sit there pretty much the whole thing, which is crazy and semi-annoying.
Yeah, you said that last week, and I put Frozen on. Didn't work.
Didn't work?
And I needed it to work when I wanted it to work. Because I wanted to be entertained too and not watch Miss Rachel.
I don't blame you. Yeah, that is the one nice thing. Is like today when I got home, she was being crazy for a minute. I put Encanto on and she watched it for 10, 15 minutes. And I was actually like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while. This is not terrible. So that was fun. But Brandon, let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is actually pretty relevant for both of us, and might be for a lot of you guys out there listening, but it's transitioning from a crib to a toddler bed, or some variation of a normal bed is what we'll call it. So out of the crib. And I guess the first thing I'll say is, I remember it wasn't too long ago, I saw a picture of a friend of ours who has a kid, and they were basically transitioning, and I started thinking, like, man, when does that happen? Because I never thought, your kid's in the crib, you're like, they're in the crib. And I'm like, man, they don't seem like they're kids that old. So I started looking into it and basically found out that your kid can move into a toddler bed basically anywhere from 18 months to 3 years is kind of when they say you should do it or start looking at it. There's no right time. That's not like, hey, if you do it 18 months, it's better. If you do it at 2.5 years, it's better. It really depends on your kid and in your situation. The biggest reason to switch is if your kid is climbing out of your crib because the crib is no longer safe. So if they're not doing that, there might not be a major reason to switch at a younger age. A lot of things I've read said if your kid's not climbing out of a crib, no reason to try to do it near 18 months. Like there's really no point at that age. So doing it might not be beneficial. But that's kind of the age range, Brandon, which you're in. You're in that range right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned climbing out of the crib, and there are things that you can do. So we were running into that actually probably, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, and luckily our crib and most cribs have different stages. So he started exploring, reaching out, and let me not say he was trying to climb out of the crib. He was reaching out of the crib to get, like, there's a night light basically on a shelf next to his crib. He's reaching out, and it's to the point where it wasn't safe. So you lower the crib. We lower the crib. He can still reach where we don't want him to. So right now we have nowhere else to go. He is on the last leg of the crib, but luckily, I don't think he's quite tall enough and hasn't tried the climbing out completely yet. But you're absolutely right. That's the biggest concern because at that point you have the whole point of a crib, and if we're looking at like comparing a crib to a bed, I'm going to give some definitions really quick. Some of this will seem obvious, but it's not obvious to everyone. A crib is basically a bed with 4 sides, and the big thing there is you have to place your child into this bed, and your child, in theory, can't get out. So you have to remove the child from it. You start talking about a toddler bed, you're looking at a lot of times a crib can turn into a toddler bed, and for most of them it's you can let one side down, so you still have kind of an area that's protected, but one area that the child can get down. Other options are Montessori or floor beds or floor pallets, where the bed or mattress is pretty much set up very low to the ground. They can get in and out without much concern. And then you have traditional beds, like your traditional full size twin, queen, king, that are set up kind of like adult beds, things like that. And the big thing is, as Jerry mentioned, as your child grows, there's going to come a time where they need to transition from sleeping in that crib to move into a different bed. And so for us, and when me and Kelsey have this conversation, it's luckily we're not dealing with a child trying to climb out. So now it's going to become more of a question of maybe not age, but maturity. So when is he able to understand the rules that come with the bed? And that's something that we'll get into in just a little bit.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, but one of the first things to look at if you're in the situation is, do you have a convertible crib? If you have a convertible crib, what configurations can it go into? And maybe start there if you are exploring, because that's one, cost effective, and two, it gives you different flexibility. So that's definitely step one for sure that you want to look into is, do you have a convertible crib? If you don't, getting a bed, you want to make sure it's got safety rails on it. I want to mention that, you want to have stuff it's got safety rails and can keep them secure so they're not hurting themselves for sure. But like you said, Brandon, it's about maturity. It's about them understanding things. But another thing I want to mention before we get into that is they also say not only age and maturity, but it does not make a lot of sense to switch from a crib to a different type of bed if there's other big changes going on in the house, such as having another kid, or if you're moving houses, or if someone switched work schedules, so now someone different is watching your kid most of the time during the day, or they're going to daycare. Things like that, and adding this on can make it not work or not be as successful. So if you have big changes going on, maybe pump the brakes on making this switch unless it is a safety concern. So, for example, for us, it's kind of interesting. We were lucky enough where we had the crib, and now obviously with another baby on the way, we probably didn't want to make the switch. Well, my sister has 3 kids, and her youngest is now out of the crib, so she basically gave us an additional crib. So we have 2 cribs. So it was nice because we didn't have to pay for another one, and now we have some time to figure out what makes the most sense. But that can be a concern too, because sometimes parents make the switch when they're like, oh, we're having another crib or another kid, we don't want to buy another crib. And that makes sense from a financial standpoint, but you got to be careful because it can be tough if your kid's not ready yet. And you can have some problems, especially because when the baby's born, they're probably going to be going through a lot too. So those are things to consider as well. But like you said, Brandon, maturity is definitely key because they need to understand rules and boundaries. So I'll let you kind of hit on some rules and boundaries, and then I'll kind of wrap it up with that too.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is understanding that and this may mean that they don't get out of, like in Bryce's case, maybe he doesn't get out of his crib until he's 3. But you need to understand as parents that they can get up and get into things. So from a you perspective, let's make sure everything in the room is secure. We should do this anyway. But in addition to that, are you comfortable with your kid understanding that the bedtime is for bedtime, and until mommy or daddy comes back in the room, they should primarily stay in their bed or in a designated play area, because what that will turn into is you going from getting a lot of sleep to even less than you imagine, because you're obviously still going to have the baby monitor on in the room. If your child is able to get up and get out of the bed and they're adventurous, then that's going to turn into you having to go in, and if they're awake, you probably should be around as well. And they need to be able to understand the rules. So what rules are you setting in place? It basically is this is bedtime. You need to stay in the bed until mom or your daddy comes in and gets you. That's the main thing. And for us, this may mean that you're waiting until Bryce is 3. You don't want to, and sometimes as parents we put pressure on ourselves based on like milestones that are age based, and for this in particular, I think that can be a mistake. Jerry mentioned the potentially putting yourself in a financial burden if you don't want to have multiple cribs, but that could lead to other things that you don't necessarily want. So I couldn't, to me, this is the most important rule that we're going to talk about. Your child has to be mature enough to understand what being in a bed will actually mean and what they're supposed to do in the room.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit recently, Macy and I, and she's like, I'd be terrified if Peyton was, on a toddler bed or a floor bed, that she'd just go pull the bookshelf on top of herself. With one, we need to anchor that to the wall because she's not really ever in there by herself now without us in there, so it's not really a concern. But if you're having your kid sleep in a room where they can wander around, even if you think they understand the rules, you got to have everything anchored down. So dressers, bookshelves, all that kind of stuff, you want to make sure you have anchored down. But also like the placement, where is it going to be? Because if they're close to things that they're going to want to grab and play with, they're going to be distracted. So a lot of things that I've read for like success is to basically try to keep the room as simple and decluttered as possible. Don't have a lot of toys out. Don't have a lot of things they can get into or cause problems with. Try to make it where they have just space with the floor, and then maybe the toys and everything are in places where you can take them out the next day or in our playroom or different things like that. So your kid's not tempted to get up in the middle of the night and play with their stuffed animals or their trains or whatever it might be. So you got to be careful with that for sure. And then as far as setting rules, different ways you can set rules is obviously if you can talk to your kid, but also, you might have like a sticker system or a reward system, or another thing that I know that we might try is using the hatch that we have. So the hatch has different colored lights that can be set to light up based on what time of the day it is. So if you don't want your kid to get out to a certain point in the day, they know they got to stay in their bed until the light turns green, right? And if the light's red, that means they got to be in their bed. Or if it turns a certain color, that means they got 10 minutes to get ready for bed. Whatever it is, like you can use things like the Hatch or other systems out there that kind of give them visual cues of what to expect. And again, like I said, there's sticker systems like, hey, if you stay in bed tonight in the morning, you'll get a sticker. If you don't, you're not going to get one. Whatever it is, things like that can help your kid get excited and be more prone to following those rules. And one of the biggest things I read, Brandon, about having success with it is when you do make the transition, make them a part of it. Let them help pick out the bed, maybe. Let them help put it together. Let them, talk about it with them for a while ahead of time. Make it a big deal. Make them excited about it. So if you do that, then when it becomes time, it's not scary. It's not, something that they want to break. They know what to expect. They're excited for it, and they're geeked.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. And for us, the last real thing that we're paying attention to, in addition to everything we've talked about, is size. I mean, you absolutely want to work towards what we talked about from a maturity level, but you can get to a point where your kid outgrows the situation that they're in. And as parents, you need to monitor it. It doesn't necessarily occur necessarily when you think. It may be. What you want to watch out for is your child hitting the sides of the crib, and it's disturbing their sleep. Is the main thing. Other than that, sometimes we even, like, if I look at Bryce in the car seat, sometimes you think that they may be more cramped than they actually are. But for staying in the crib, just make sure that the size isn't affecting their sleep habits, anything like that. But as you mentioned, making sure that they're a part of the process, and transitioning from a crib to a bed is vitally important to success.
For sure. A couple final pointers that I read that could be helpful for you is, one, when you make the switch, don't mess with your routine. So don't all of a sudden change what you do at bedtime. Make bedtime the same. It's just now, instead of a crib, they're going into their bed. Keeping that routine can really help them. Another thing I read is maybe put the bed, if you have the space, put the bed in the room before you actually make the switch. So now they get used to it being in the room. They get used to maybe laying on it during the day. And then you're having the conversations, you're talking to them about what the bed is. And then when you finally make the switch, they've already are used to the bed. So day one's not like, oh, this is super exciting, this is crazy. They know the bed's there. They've already had time playing on it, sleeping on it, during the day. So that's another thing that can help you out, is if you expose them to it early. And the last point I'll make, and this is a semi-controversial one, but it's something to think about, or at least talk about with your partner, is what you do about the door itself. Because if you don't want your kid,
that's my biggest fear right now.
Yeah, if you don't want your kid getting out of the door because either you're upstairs and you're afraid they'll fall downstairs, or they'll get into other stuff, you might need to, quote unquote, lock them in, if you will, which obviously you don't want to have safety issues. So there's things with that, but keeping them in the room is a safety issue. So talk about that with your partner. There's pros and cons. The one thing I'll say on that is, if you can do it in an effective way that doesn't take you a long time to get in the room. So whether it's just putting a childproof lock on the door, or having like an easy access from the other side, is when they're in their crib, they can't get out anyways, right? As a baby. So now if they're in their bed and they can't get out anyways, it's not crazy different. You just want to make sure you can get in there quick if there is a fire hazard or something like that. But that's definitely something you want to talk about and have a plan for, because a kid walking out of the room and then falling down the stairs is not a good thing either. So
no, and I personally do not trust the childproof door locks at this point, because my kid has figured out how it's basically a game to him that he loves. It's turned into a puzzle, and he's trying to figure it out at all times. So in our case, an option would be basically to buy a door handle that has a lock on it, but just and flip the lock to the other side where it's accessible from outside of the door and not inside.
Yeah, and that's a quick, easy way to basically, you can get in very quickly, but they can't get out. So just something to think about. I know our rooms are upstairs, and we have a baby gate, but again, I don't love the idea of Peyton getting into the hallway, and either figuring out the baby gate, pushing the baby gate over because she like throws herself into it or whatever. All those things are things to think about. I personally, Brandon, I'll end by saying this: is we're 17 months. She's 17 months old. I think we're still a little bit of ways away. I'm excited actually for her to get like a floor bed. I think it'll be fun hanging in there, maybe reading with her on her little bed. But like you said, you don't want to rush it. So I think we'll know when she's ready. And right now, yeah, she's clearly not ready. And she's doing fine in her crib, so we're okay. But we'll monitor this, and we'll make sure that when we are ready, that we take the necessary steps.
Yeah, and we're in the same exact boat. The key is don't rush it. It's not something that you have to do. We both know someone who has a child. They had trouble sleeping from birth. They actually, because of their situation, their son has been in a Montessori bed since he was 11 months old. So mileage may vary. Every kid is different. That's something that at this point he's a little bit over 2.5, I believe, and it's a good situation that's working for them. But they know their child and they knew what they needed to do at the time. You have to treat this the exact same way. And a quick thing on it's just a thought I had. If you are in a situation like we are where our bedrooms are upstairs, obviously you have the baby monitors, but something, we've mentioned it before, something as simple as like a Wise Cam, which is about $20 or $30, or even like a Ring Cam. You can have that set up to monitor like a hallway outside your kid's room, and then almost set that up like a security alarm. So worst case scenario, something happens, an alarm goes off on your phone, it'll probably wake you up. And that's just a last minute or last ditch thing that you could do if they happen to get out of the room somehow.
Good point, Brandon. Very, very good point. And obviously having the baby monitors don't go away just because your kid's on the floor. So the nice thing too.
Not as much as them things cost. I'm about to use that thing till he's 18.
Exactly. I don't blame you. Well, I got to buy another one if it makes you feel better, Brandon. I've been waiting for a sale for like 6 months, like a good sale. But that's a good place to stop. Let me hit you with the dad joke, Brandon, if you're ready.
I'm ready now. My headphones went out in the middle of you talking. I had to hit the quick charge, try to connect some other headphones, but we made it work.
I like it. So, Brandon, what do you call a belt with a watch on it?
A belt with a watch on it. Wasting time.
A waste of time.
Yes.
Yep.
That's close
enough.
Of
time. It's close enough. Does that make it better because you guessed it? Like it's a good.
Dude, every time, legit, I feel like I get a power up. Like I was tired. Now I feel like I'm super energetic now that I got it right.
That's funny. I read a bunch of them. I don't know why I thought that one was funny. I just thought it
was funny.
It's kind of clever both ways. Like obviously, being on your waist, but also like, it is a waste of time having a clock on your belt.
What do you call it on a fat man's waist?
A large waste of time.
A big waste of time.
I like it. But yeah, if you guys, like Brandon said earlier, this is my plug portion. If you haven't already liked us on Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media sites, please do. If you haven't told your friends about us, please do. Write a review about us.
And the photo is already up.
There you go. Comment on stuff. We love hearing from each and every single one of you. Like I said, we got kids now both over 17 months of age. We've been doing it for a minute now. I got another one on the way, but we like hearing about topics that maybe were relevant in the past that we never talked about or are going to be relevant in the future. We like talking about basically anything to do with parenting and kids. So let us know if you have any ideas as always. But until next time, I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.